Hello, hello, and welcome to the Rich Revolutionaries Podcast. We have another very special guest today, Taurin McBride. I will allow you to have the honor of introducing yourself to the listeners. Let us know who you are, what you do.
Hey everybody, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you, Shanice, for having me. This is amazing. I am many things, but I just kind of realized that I am all about relationships and communities. So I've coined myself the WellRooted Rising, where we can like root down into each other, root down into community, root down into our truth, like being vulnerable within our relationships and rise from there. And so really focus on like the holistic human altogether. Very crunchy, holistic, natural person. So I really believe the foundation of the evolution of ourselves starts with like getting our mind right, getting our body right, and then aligning our heart's passion and fire desire with like what we do. And so that's like this ascension pathway, this process that I've guided myself on since being a teenager, that I am now getting ready to take women and other men on this journey of with me of really curating our lives in a way that feels regenerative and fulfilling and in alignment with who we are.
Oof, so much. Yes, I love it. I love it. Okay. So, for those who are listening, Torrin and I know each other through a few different weaving of community spaces, the Living Brave space and the Mirrorship with Annie Davis, who you haven't already checked out the episode that we did with her. Go watch that after this and come back. Um, hmm. I want to hear more about who you were before you were the woman that we see here today. And if you could, if you'll give us the honor to walk us through your rebirth story.
Yeah. So I feel like it's this constant evolution, right? And I want to like take it back to like childhood times. And I kind of think that the reason I am the way I am is because we spent a lot of time outdoors as kids. And so this like natural love of earth has developed in me. But I remember one time like sitting in my aunt's like Audi and like she's driving. I'm like, it's like we're riding on a cloud. I'm like staring up at the clouds and I'm like, what is life? And I'm like elementary, probably like fourth or third grade. I'm like, what is life? Like, why do we speak this language? What is these words coming out of us? Like, how did we get here to be like in this evolution? And kind of just always had this like, almost like, I'm the weird kid, like questioning life, quite in this like spiritual inclination. And so I was just immersed in nature in Washington State. And then my parents decided to move us down to California when I was in middle school and high school. And I say California turned me out. Okay, the beach life, being next to the ocean and sleeping next to the ocean as a teenager and getting those whoosh, whoosh of the ocean in your mind was like that soul like acclimation and nourishing. And I really credit that to the evolution of my consciousness. But as a kid, that was just naturally questioning things. I question a lot of the systems at play that I was in, as far as like the school system, the medical system, just the general like societal programming, and the things that we do in society these days. And that led me down a path of like deep rebellion. I ran away from home when I was like 15 and lived on the streets for 2 years, just having the greatest time, going to Grateful Dead concerts, drum circles, just being a wild kid while my parents are at home stressed out, losing it. Because I can only imagine now as a parent, like what they were feeling. Um, and at that time, that was me rebelling. That was me being like, okay, these systems aren't for me. Like I'm not into the traditional standards. I know that agriculture is screwed. I know that like the medical system profits off of sick. I know the school is indoctrination for employment. Unless you really dig deep, it's like school is a lot of it, especially even college, can be an indoctrination for certain things. But if you are that free thinker, if you are that contrarian, you can find the gold in there. And that's kind of what happened to me as I matured. So I got with my partner that I'm currently with when I was 18 years old. We've been together 9 years now. I'm 27. And about 4 years into our relationship, we were traveling, having fun, living out of our van. We decided to get a home. 2 years into the home, nesting, we're like, let's make a baby. Made a baby. Shortly after I had my baby, crazy 16-hour home birth. This is like this is like the rebirth right here. Is this baby catapulted me into my purpose. It was like before then we were still partying, having a lot of fun, going to music concerts and festivals and just having a blast, right? Um, when she was born, I was like randomly watching this documentary called Kiss the Ground, and it changed my life. Who would have thought like a movie could change your life? But it changed my life. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And it was all about regenerative agriculture. So from there, I was like researching. I just had my baby. I definitely didn't want to leave her. So I was like online degrees for regenerative organic agriculture, got into that. That has been, going to be finishing that up soon. I'll be done at the end of the year with my bachelor's, and that has been like my foundation and rebirth of like, okay, this rebellious hearted teenager that knew that these normal systems, the conventional agriculture, the Western medicine systems weren't for her, found her place. She found her place with her people that realized that money in the hands of good people, earth stewards, these people is very, very powerful. And this is how we can do it in a way that's in alignment with the earth, in alignment with serving people, in alignment with our like values. And it's totally like contrarian, it's like it's ran by some of the biggest companies, Dr. Broaders, Patagonia, Rodal Institute, but yet we're all just like free thinkers, new earth stewards. And I'm like, these are my people. So my kid really catalyzed that. And then from there, I found the water about a couple of years ago. I was like, wait, it makes sense. We need clean food. We need clean water. Like, this is what I'm here to do. And that's kind of how my entrepreneur journey started. And I could get into like entrepreneur journey deep, but
We'll get into it.
that's the evolution of me so far, is just being that rebellious kid, lost, partying, doing a lot of drugs, being like, oh wait, there's people like me out there that have crazy impact, and I found them, and really, yeah, it was wild.
Mm, mm, mm. Thank you so much for bringing us along that journey and being willing to go into those like vulnerable, like edgy places that some people kind of like just like to push away. We love to peel back the curtain and really get into the nitty-gritty here. And I don't know if you know this, but the reason this podcast is called the Rich Revolutionary is because this is an archetype that's emerged in my work, seeing people transition from that place of the rebellious inner teen who is operating in this like fight nervous system against the systems and holding all of this anger and rebelling against what's there. And then when we're actually able to alchemize that anger into joy, then we get to come into this expanded state where we are moving towards what we want rather than rebelling away from. And that I call the Rich Revolutionary. She's rich in unconditional love. She's rich in authentic power, and she is rich in vibrational truth. And I feel like you are the embodiment of all of that. So I'm very excited to keep digging into the layers of the soil of who you are.
Yeah, it's a blessing, and it's like, the process that it takes for us to come to this realization to become that rich revolutionary is like magical, and you don't really see it until you look back on it, and then you're like, okay, this is how I got here, and this is like the evolution. And I feel like that's naturally more happening in our Western world, particularly, is like we're all like kind of realizing, okay, there's a place for us to be who we truly are and make an impact. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and having those pillars, some will call them light leaders. I like to call them New Earth CEOs, to really like gather and congregate and amplify the mission. And so I want to weave back the piece that you spoke to around regenerative living, because that I want to be like one of the core like word meat and potatoes is coming to my mind of this conversation.
Yeah.
And so you spoke to us about being so inspired by this documentary and also about like, receiving the transmission of the ocean as a child. Um,
Mhm.
can you share with us more of how that progression has formed the work that you do and like really bring us into the details of what it means to live regeneratively in terms of all of our relationships, like you mentioned, our food or water, our parenting, our relationships with our partners. Like it really is infinite
Mhm.
how this can be like woven into a life philosophy and way of being.
Yeah, I really think it all starts with an open mind, right? And also being understanding that we are co-creators of their reality and everything is happening for us, not to us. And so I can look back on a lot of that evolution, being on the run from the crops, certain drug addictions, things like that, and be like, that was so horrible. This happened to me, like being locked up in juvenile hall, all these things, but none of where I'm at would not be possible without those life experiences. And so regenerative living, what it really means to me is understanding that like we are co-creators and everything that's regenerative, like if you look at regenerative agriculture, it's more indigenous, it's nothing new. It's just what has been like suppressed and old that we've kind of like masked with conventional organic agriculture. So the same way with regenerative living, these are key things that we like know within ourselves that are just being like reborn again through that regeneration of wealth that comes through like lived experiences. And to understand and to perceive these lived experiences is something that's regenerating us. You have to have the open mind and realizing, okay, this is happening for me to learn, and these are my lessons. And so I think most of all, it's just I've always kind of prided myself in a way like I'm a Taurus, I'm resilient. And I don't really think that's the case, right? I think we just have to take the time to like really process what we're going through to like connect the dots and see, okay, this is like our evolution. And so regenerative systems really came into play for me when it's like you start to realize everything's compounding and building on itself. It's like the soil. It's like the less disturbance that we do, the more nurturing that we get in there, the layers that we're adding on, the sheet mulching, the things like that. You're building this beautiful ecosystem and this compound effect. And so it's been like that for everything. Nothing that I've ever started, had even including my relationship, was like pristine, nutrient rich, nourishing from the jump. They have all been like this lifelong work and being open to, okay, this is something that I love and something that I'm committed to working on, and having the open mind to like regenerate our new ideas. We're so like programmed from the beginning, as parents, inevitably, no matter what we do, no matter how spiritually inclined our emotional IQ, we're programming our children. The society is programming our children. And so when you have the regenerative mind is a reflection, is a constant reflection, a constant like remembering of like, okay, this is what I align with. And so it's kind of like what the teenagers go through. It's kind of like what I was going through, is our brain is like naturally pruning synapses. So we have like some crazy 25,000 synapses going off in our brain, like per minute or something crazy. And it slows down from like infancy, but infancy is like crazy wild. And these synapses are like connections. We're connecting like good to bad, thought to emotion, action to action. We're connecting things. When you become around 10, 12 years old, your brain starts to naturally prune these synapses. And this is why teenagers have these crazy identity shifts. They're like, what do I identify with? Who am I? They're like, their brain is literally pruning back and figuring out where it relates. That's literally the brain regenerating itself. It's like, okay, we've had all this input, all of this input. Now, who are we? What do we identify with? And so that's why we get to look back and we get to choose like, what are we choosing to like regenerate in our heart and regenerate in our mind? And how are we nourishing these relationships through being open to learning? And it's a whole ecosystem, but I really believe it starts with like having an open mind and being committed to continuous growth, really.
Mm. I could listen to you talk about this forever, and we're getting such a treat for the listeners as well. Um, yeah, like what I love to call this is life alchemy, right? We're just
Mhm.
looking at all the raw materials that life has given us and going through that process of like mulching and pruning of like, okay, not this, but that. And then what can I make of this? What new life can this experience that might have been very rupturous? Like we share some similarities in our experience with like addiction and incarceration and all of that. And so like those experiences, like we have the choice, and if we want to go into our neuroscience
Yeah, the good stuff.
too, it's like, okay, it can be post-traumatic stress or it can be post-traumatic growth.
Yep, that's
And
the
the
choice.
difference between those two
Hmm.
is the environment that we're in.
Yep.
Is the environment going to give us the nutrients
Mhm.
that we need to grow,
Mhm.
evolve, or is it going to perpetuate these cycles of identification with pain, with suffering?
Yeah.
And oh, yes.
Yes. Oh,
So
oh,
especially
yeah.
like such a proponent for community being like one of the pillars of not only our business, but like lifestyle of how we're rearing children and having that rich network of support that
Mhm.
mirrors the mycelium network that is
Mhm.
under trees roots. And if we look at our nervous system, like we're kind of like more sophisticated plants.
Mhm.
And we too get to send out these signals
Yeah.
for the nourishment we need, and then have that be uptake through our root systems, through
Mhm.
community. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like you said, it is a lot of environment, right? And your environment's either gonna like enable or it's going to push you to grow. And I will, consciously admit that like I didn't always put myself in environments that pushed me to grow. There was a lot of comfort seeking, a lot of masking, a lot of I'm a resilient Taurus to what like broke it for me, which it doesn't, everybody's different, but what broke it for me was my kid. And that was like the line in the sand. It was like, no, like everything I know in my heart is to be true. But for some reason, as an individual, I can kind of bypass myself a little bit and be like, yeah, whatever, it's like important to me, but like me, whatever, I'll survive. But when it comes to like having another being, and that's where like the my fire comes in, right? It's not just my other being, it's my friend's other being. It's the babies and children of this earth, and like really like guiding that future and nourishing it from a way. Is That's when it was like jump kicked. It's like, okay, now I'm not going to continuously choose to be an enabling environment, an enabling relationship, continuing these patterns around all these whatever things, and I'm gonna push myself to grow. And it's really an ebb and flow. There's no like perfect, and it's the same way with the soil. It has its seasons, right? We have our winters, we have our springs. There's times you can disturb the soil. There's other times you don't want to disturb the soil. You want to let it be thriving and alive and intact. And so it is a matter of our environment. And that's like the mission, right? And I truly believe for many aspects, it's a lack of education. And that's why part of my mission is education. That's why we're here talking is like share knowledge, share wealth, share lived stories to help expand like the collective mind and expand our physical being to be open to receive more. Because if I didn't, learn about these things, they would never be in my mind. So it's just yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. The how I like to define wealth is the freedom to choose from infinite possibility in any moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that just expands exponentially when we are in these networks that are operating in regenerative systems of reciprocity, of information and resource sharing. And like, I love mentorship for this reason because it just makes everything
Mm-hmm.
so much more enjoyable,
Yep.
right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when we are operating in these extractive ways, which would be kind of like the mainstream culture, is like, okay, I'm doing something to get something.
Yep.
Well, that's like a linear energetic, but the ultimate like vibrational truth of reality is that everything's operating in these cyclical ways.
Mhm.
And so we're actually leaking so much energy by operating in these linear ways of doing something to get something and leaving out the full loop of like, okay, this is meant to serve me and the community and the collective. And when each of those pieces are operating in these cycles of reciprocity, then it's just like that's when you tune into this effortless place of abundant overflow.
Yeah.
Mhm. That gets to lead to generational wealth, generational regenerative systems. And this is kind of where I like to geek out thinking about the children that are being born
Mhm.
like recent years. And like you spend a lot of time around children, you see
Mhm.
they're coming in with this like different frequency, this different level of consciousness. And there's more and more of that rebellion and in the
Mhm.
school systems and like even in alternative education, like I worked in a Waldorf school for a while and just the way that kids are innately like questioning everything and like not backing down from authority
Mhm.
is like so fun to see. Maybe not so if you're like the main educator, but that's why
Yeah.
I'm not in that field anymore.
Yeah.
And I want to hear more about your vision for like generational regenerative, like
Mm.
systems and like communities and restorative ways of being and in connection with each other and the earth.
Yeah, totally. I think it's a really good thing that they're all questioning. I mean, that's how I started out, and that just comes like you kind of just gotta trust the process, right? Um,
Mm,
so my vision specifically for like regenerative systems and what I'm gonna do in my business is the main goal is to like own and operate multiple regenerative organic farms, right? And employ communities through that. And so I have this vision of owning like 18 massive global regenerative farms, like for animals and for plants, and employing the communities to work there and run the farms, right? And so I really, when you said, like how I measure my wealth in so many ways, but really how I measure my wealth, like when I walk into my home and how I feel, it's like I look at my pantry and my fridge and I see clean, healthy food. And I feel like the most rich person in the world. I am abundant AF. I am like, look at that fridge. It's so good. And so really that's why food is so important to me. And that's also why water is so important to me as it really like we all have to eat, we all have to drink. And if you really deep dive into what regenerative agriculture research is telling you right now, it's like we don't have room for air as much as like we think we do for our soil health and what's going on. And so for me, what my work is like really educating people on the importance of like restoring our soil right now in this time. And it's like when the United Nations comes out and this lady says, hey, we got 60 years of harvest left if we keep doing conventional agriculture like we're doing, our soil is going to nothing. And
mm,
we need to get gas emissions down to this. Like we're at like something 60 something gigahertz. We need to get down to 48 if we really want to like stop the crazy amount of warming. Like all this deep research and people's concerns about is it going to produce enough? Because that's where conventional agriculture started. It was like mass production. Let me go and produce because we're in war. We got to produce. We got to feed all the soldiers. And it's like actually regenerative systems overproduce. They produce
mm,
more nutrient dense things. And so how can we like incorporate this into many facets of our life? How can we make like our community and our family regenerative and like we're helping each other? This is like a living, breathing ecosystem. How can we develop ourselves to be open and to growth and working within our units that we have at play and helping each other? And I don't it's this big shift when we start to think about, okay, how can we go from what you're talking about, like the sheeple mentality, the extraction? It's like I'm going to do this to get this. It's like
mm,
how can I do this to give, and inevitably things are going to come back. And that's really, really how it works. If you start to get into your community and get to know like local farms, volunteer on them, whatever, you will all of a sudden see an abundance of stuff. You'll just be given stuff and things just come flooding in. I'm like, I'm like, how, sometimes we can find like scarcity or like restraint and abundance, like too much. This was like me the other week. I had like a mound of produce on my counter, and I'm like, I don't want it to go to waste. Somebody's got to take this food, like giving it all away to my neighbors, and just like, oh my God. So really for me, it plays in with food and water and making sure that everybody gets the access clean food and water because there is so much abundance. I work on multiple farms. I manage a farm, and it's like, you know, there's there are things such as food deserts. They are few and far between. And so it's like we as communities can come together and like just support each other in a regenerative way and feed each other and nourish each other. And I really do think that inevitably through that, the evolution, the connection with the soil and the earth and the water, it leads to the regenerative mind. It leads to the regenerative heart. It's, and it is, like you said, it's a big, big switch from extraction to regenerative because it can be hard to like ask for help. It can be hard to lean on community. It's like I'm looking out my window right now and I'm like, out of all the neighbors that I see, like how many neighbors do I know within my neighborhood? Is this like a community? Who am I talking to? Who am I getting to know? And so for me, regenerative systems is community, is soil and food. And I plan on doing that through uniting them all together in like one setting and feeding people and hydrating people. Um, Most of all, like for my child is like being able to give her a life where she gets to curate and like we get to nourish and kind of like hold her interests and her things sacred, and whatever that may be, whether that's like in the path of what I'm doing or completely opposite, you know what I mean? And being able to, our children know from like a deep, deep inner self and whatever it is that they come with this innate intelligence of like what they love and desire. And I feel like a lot of that is lost through those linear extraction systems of schooling, whatever. And it's like, how can we regenerate them? One of my like visions is to have a piece of property where we have these like tiny sheds, right? And there's different arts and crafts. One's for I love blowing glass. That's something you guys don't know about me. I love to blow glass, like molten glass. Um, Having one that's a glass hot shop, having one that's like woodworking, that's art, that's like computers and all these things to have children come to and explore their curiosities, explore their creativeness, and really building that regenerative wealth inside of them because they innately know like what lights their heart up. It just kind of gets watered down. And that's like one of the most sacred, beautiful things that we should be protecting in our future generations is their creativity, is their natural expression, and their health overall, so they can continue to create and naturally express because there is absolute like beautiful, crystal, reflective, light working individuals everywhere and children being born in this day. And it really is, I've never felt it more powerful right now in the Western world than I have. You can see other countries and other things that are a little more advanced in doing this or doing that. And it's like, I feel like we're catching some speed here. I love it.
Yes,
It's so
yes,
fun.
absolutely. I love your enthusiasm and like optimism for the future. It's so contagious. And I want to like expand on that thread that you brought forward of like how
Mhm.
children are actually born
Mhm.
with all of the wisdom that they need. And our responsibility as parents, as caregivers, is to nurture that and allow their curiosity to unfold as they like bloom as
Mhm.
like, a part of nature, really. And we can learn so much by getting on a child's level and seeing through their eyes and a big part of my work is bringing back play. And this ties into too, like what you were saying of like, okay, how often do we ask for things from our neighbors or like a stranger on the street? And we're so conditioned in, in school, like don't talk to your neighbor, like stay still, like don't be disruptive. And it like creates this like again this break in the energetic of the interconnectivity of all things and all people. And children at a young enough age, they don't have that yet. They're in that interconnected flow. They're pursuing their curiosity. If they see a kid that looks funny or that looks interesting, they'll just say it and like approach
Mhm.
them and ask to play together. And really, that's what we're weaving back into the
Mhm.
fabric of our society, the fabric of our interconnectedness when we're choosing to live in these regenerative ways. We're
Yes.
really saying, like, let's just play together. Let's see what we could
Mhm.
create together. Let's explore curiosity together and see what happens. Like, that is such a nutritive place to
Yeah.
live from. And we actually get to explore this field of unlimited, infinite possibility that is always around us, but we can tend to close off our perception so that we're operating in these predictable linear ways that is bringing the experiences that we've had in the past into the presence through
Mhm.
these patterns in our nervous system and our neural pathways. And yes, spending time with children is the best pattern to interrupt because they will be like just being so ridiculous and having the best.
So real.
It is amazing. And you can see them be so
Uh-huh.
engaged in like an activity and then drop it and like never come back to it. Or
Mhm.
be in this like really deep, like wailing tantrum and then like it's over and it's done. It's like it never happened. And there's not this like clinging on to any
Mhm.
certain like thing when they're young enough. And so yeah, part of my future vision is to really create that environment as well to be able to nurture children and these ways of like unschooling, jungle schooling, to live in communities where there are like permaculture food forests and that they're learning these ways of living and tending to the land as they are being like reared in communities. And that's just like the baseline of understanding of what's being imprinted that actually is this amplification of what I believe to be the original template that like we come into this world with.
Yeah. I think it's like a lot of things are all about connection. It's just crazy. And inevitably, like the contrast is beautiful, right? The contrast gives us this like scope. And as much as I like do my research, try to be the best mom possible, I am naturally going to, and she's naturally going to go through these processes where she might take in some things that aren't necessarily like the best worldview or something like that. But that is like where the gold's at, is because she can see the contrast in it. And so I really think that what you're saying about raising them in the community with permaculture, things like that, that's foundational because it's about connection. It's about connection to yourself. It's about connection to the earth that you live on and like your impact and what like there's a connection between all living beings. I mean, we all have like this breathing like DMT spirit molecule in us, and we're all just like living, breathing ecosystems and consciousness. And so, no matter what, I feel like that is really the core and kind of where I'm like, okay, I really think nature had played a part in like who I am, as far as like going camping and being outside all the time in Washington, to sleeping on the beach like every day that I could, sneaking out of the house to sleep on the beach just because I was like, this is where I'm meant to be, like right next to the ocean,
Mm.
listening to her. And so that connection, I think, will always bring us back home, always bring us back together and have that humble heart, that respecting heart. And children are absolutely crazy. Like have their own unique things. And that's where I really like get into the regenerative body, especially as a mother. There's so much that we can do for ourselves or don't do for ourselves when we're pregnant, when we're giving birth, things that energetically like are going to form a lot of the way our kid behaves in those early stages. Like I said, the teenager is kind of like out of control. You're just like, the brain is doing what it's going to do biologically, and you just got to hold on to the reins. But as kids, I'm seeing a lot of, like you said, a lot of very interesting kids that are very um, articulate and like focused and intentional and forgiving and curious. And as adults, how do we bring that back into play, right? And
Mhm.
it's awkward, right? Sometimes you're like, I gotta go talk to this stranger or go like hang out at this party where I don't know anybody and like make a friend. Why is that so awkward? You know what I mean? It's like, how's this like so uncomfortable for me to get out here and play and be curious? And like, it's really weird, but you just gotta like go for it. And just like sometimes it reminds me of times when we're like, I don't know, I'm out with my partner or something, and I like tell him, I'm like, I really like that girl's like shoes or something. I'm just like, she seems super cool. And he's like, go talk to her. I'm like, you go talk to her first. And then I'll go talk to her. I'm like, he's like, ah! And as you do it more and more, kind of like kids, it's like the first day of school, right? It's like we're like, kid is like, oh no, like we're in teachers, we're kids, and then it's like, hi, we're all best friends, and it's kind of just like go for it and
Mhm.
bringing out that childlike curiosity and really you like holding on to it. And think the most important thing is connection with self and connection with earth, because either way we're all going to have our contrast, and that's what makes it worthwhile.
Absolutely. And like the most important part, right, in that like contrast in the rupture is the repair, because that is
Mhm.
what is teaching children to be
Yeah.
able to navigate conflict, to be able to move
Mhm.
through these cycles of challenge, of growth, of evolution. And
Mhm.
I want to start to pivot the conversation now into what I call New Earth business. And so it's bringing all of the pieces of regenerative living, of rupture and repair, of um, building reciprocal systems
Mhm.
into entrepreneurship. And I'd love to hear what your experience has been like moving from being like, fuck the system, like money is the root of all evil, into
Yeah.
now being a
Yeah.
business owner. And what has that process been of like, if you can walk us through kind of the red pill, blue pill moment of like
Yeah.
finding the pieces that feel more organic for you.
Yeah. So I was always like, I don't remember which pill is which pill, but like my partner is very he's like an entrepreneur at heart. He's very like detached from money, but makes it really well and spends it
Mhm.
well and gives it well. And it's just like da, 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 da. He's a
Love
creator
that.
of wealth. And so I'm always been like whatever pill that is. And then I've always been like the pill that's like, we need to check our bank and like the accounting, like we gotta make sure we're gonna have the money for the kid and all these things, like very like safe, safe, safe. And
Mhm.
so when I really I don't say I was pushed off the ledge because I wanted it. I'm a crunchy mom, right? I wanted the business, the water that I work with. I wanted the systems, and it's affiliate marketing. So I'm like, I need the systems to sell them, and I want them for my home because like they're amazing. And it really was like, my first investment into my business, the startup, which it doesn't cost us much, but we're kind of like go big or go home people. So I was like, we're going in, we're buying everything, rack it up, $18,000, let's go. And then I'm like, peel back, and I'm like, oh, can we handle this? Is this gonna be okay? And he's like, babe, it's gonna be fine. Let's go. And it's kind of in this dual partnership that has really been a huge life force and catalyst for me to even like be in this evolution of entrepreneurship right now. I don't know where it'd be without his contrast of like coming in, and it's kind of starting to rub off on me now. Um, so it took that movie Regenerative or Kiss the Ground totally transformed me to be like, okay, like I need to make a bunch of money so I could do that, so I can help farmers transition. I need to be paid for that, of helping like heal the earth so I can continue to do it and travel and do it and talk to many farmers. So that kind of brought it up for me. It just came into like the aspect of being able to spend the money to
Mm.
run a business is really what it came down to. And
I want to pause you for a
just
moment.
like,
For
yeah.
those of us who haven't watched Kiss the Ground, can you share what the like big light bulb moment of like aha of like, oh, this is breaking all the beliefs that I had over what's possible and what new
Yeah.
becomes possible?
So first off, it's narrated by Woody Harrelson. I love that guy, right? He's so cool. So Kiss the Ground is basically about regenerative agriculture and what happened. They were like in the Midwest, in the United States, helping these farmers transition, and these farmers were having like crazy climate issues, like their soil was getting blown away by like random rainstorms. They were having lightning. It was just like there'd be just hail, just crazy climate. And really what influences a lot of our climate is the microclimate. What's going on, like the grass, the roots, the trees, the shrubs, the things right there really have a great influence on like what's happening in our sky at the in that location. And so
Mm.
these farmers were like massively in debt. A lot of farmers are taking loans to run their farm to get it started up, and they're consistently adding pesticides, chemicals, things, consistently doing these things, and they're just in debt because every the year they have to do more of that to even pull a lick of life out of dead soil. And they went in and they helped these farmers transition to regenerative. And these farmers like got out of debt. They're thriving. Their crops are just like boom. They're abundant AF. They're wealthy as frick. And I was like, this is it. This is it. We're gonna help people get wealthy. They're like what they're already doing in a more refined, regenerative way. Like this is it. And so that was my moment, was like, okay, seeing it happen for real life folk who like needed help, that were desperate and open to change. And I was like, okay, this is the magic. So that was my breaking point in my whole paradigm. Like, um, where did we leave off?
Weaving it back in with New Earth business.
Yeah. So when I started my business, it was very numbers game, which is a part of it. You do want to reach people, you do want to be in communication with people, but I was very much like adding 50 people a day, sending 30 new DMs, like conversating, just pushing, cold DMing, all these things, which could be great if somebody's like already warmed up to what you're doing. But when you're just like talking to absolute strangers and they're just like, who are you to try to sell me like a multiple $1,000 package? Like, how dare you? Like, I don't even know you. And you're just like, well, it's really good stuff.
I
Trust
love the
me.
analogy of like going up to like a stranger at a bar and like putting your hand down there.
Yes. Totally
Our
do
mentor
that.
Shoshana uses that one all the time. That's really what it feels like to have someone come like
Yeah.
sell you a multiple $1,000 package in the DM. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, who are you again?
It's all about relationship building. And so, granted, I did build a couple solid relationships with people through those cold DMs that were women like me, that were crunchy moms, that did want best for their family. And those relationships took 6 months to build and nourish and meet up in person and love. And they ended up being my business partners. So it's not impossible. It's just draining, right? And you do find that diamond in the rough where it's like, oh, they're open. They really are curious. They want to meet with you. They want to. We met up at the park, hung out with our kids, now we're best friends and business partners. So it does happen. But that really left me at like, nobody really like, I don't feel like most people create the reality of business because it's different for everybody, right? Some people take off really, really fast. Some people it's really slow. Some people it's cyclical. It like comes in waves. And that's really what it was for me. It's been like cyclical. I did really well in the first couple months. And then it was like dry periods for like 6, 7 months. And in those 6, 7 months, I'm just grinding, like reaching out to people, connecting with people, inviting people to classes, doing the things. And it was from a place of I need to make money. It was from a place of like it was almost like an ego thing. Like I want to make sales. And it was like, yes, what I work with truly, truly is amazing, but it wasn't from that like service led heart. And so I just like kind of went through my burnout phase where I like didn't look at my business for extended period of times. Everything was just kind of very product forward. Like, let me list off all the reasons why this is great. Let me tell you why your life sucks and why you need this and how this will make it better. And then it came to, and I was like, wait, like, what has this done for me? You know, like, where's the transformation? Where's the love? And that's kind of when my original mentor, my very first mentor, Annie, got into Shoshana's ecosystem. And then I was invited into Shoshana's ecosystem. And I was like, okay, like, how can we serve from a place of desire? Because I tell
Yeah.
you what, like, the moms are in the women that are holistic are a force to be like united with. Like, if you're political and you want some voting influence, get on our side because like we will make it happen. You know what I mean? Like, we are a unit. So there's no like, that's the way to go, right? So I'm like, it really took like getting out of that really scarcity, like I need this, and telling myself over and over again, like it's inevitable because this water is a side piece to my whole woman like ecosystem that I'm building. It's a side piece to my regenerative career. And no matter what, I will be successful. So I just maybe slow down and take a breather and like figure out how can I do this in a way that feels good? How can I do this in a way that um um and not do this in a way that, but when I know that like there's emotional triggers coming up, like for example, I see somebody crushing it and I'm not crushing it.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm looking at their stuff. What are they doing? I'm not doing. Like, how can I do it better? Comparison, imposter
Feel
syndrome,
her joy.
all that nasty stuff, man. It will still try to creep up on you, and learning to navigate those things as entrepreneur, accepting that your path is your path and it's only yours and it's unlike anybody's else. And if you really love what it is, like staying committed to it. And I did not expect all this stuff to come up. I did not when I got into business. I was like, I'm just gonna, talk about the product and say how it changed my life and sell the crap out of it, right? And I was like, no, actually, a lot of emotional things came up when it doesn't always work out the way you want it to, and that has been the biggest learning curve. Is like getting the body and the mind in alignment, and that's where the self development comes in. They say like, if you want to do self development, become an entrepreneur. It's the best self development in the world, and
Absolutely.
so it's like there was a lot of ebbs and flows, and there still is, and like I just joined a high level mastermind with Shoshana, and I'm in there, and I'm like, next week we're doing a mastermind, and I have to figure out what I'm going to give and ask, like, what? And I'm just like, you know what? I'm not even going to plan it. I'm just going to flow because I know it'll come out of me naturally. I'm a responder. Once I get in the room with people like you and other people, I just can naturally respond and like what feels good for me. Um, and so the regenerative like entrepreneurship has really come down to the whole body. And that's what well-rooted rising is. It's the mind, it's your community, it's your relationships, your subconscious, it's the body being nourished and hydrated and nervous system regulated. A lot of the food that we eat, a lot of processed foods, a lot of things like that really affect our body, not just like physically, but energetically, dialing that in. And then like the heart, it's like, am I really in love with what I'm doing? Do I
Mm,
truly believe it? Is this my calling? Like, can I do this regardless? It's that quote the Christian Martin says, you're entitled to your labor, but you're not entitled to the fruits of your labor. So you're going to continue
that's
to
a
do this.
Bhagavad Gita quote.
Yeah, you're right. And so I'm like, do
Bhagavad
you
Gita
really?
ex Christian Martin.
Yes. The guy that puts it in my head all the time. I'm like, yep. And so it's like, are you really in love with what you're doing, and can you continue to do it from a place of service or a place of like, I'm doing this because I need to make money? And
Yeah.
how is it, serving you and the
Mhm.
evolution of yourself? And so, yeah, the heart space, and then just realizing, okay, if this is what I love, I'm running with it. And getting
Yeah.
in rooms where like the word of this year, since I've went to these events, I went to multiple events this year, is osmosis. It's
Yeah.
like get in the room and get the feeling of other entrepreneurs. I believe that like if you talk to, and this is just what I believe, if you're talking to an entrepreneur and they think, or somebody who has a business and they don't think you need mentorship or you don't need community, they have no clue what they're talking about. Every successful person in this world has a mentor. They've been in community, they've done mentorship, they've done masterminds. You got to get in the room with other people that are doing it with you, have done it before, can continue to do it over and over and over again and replicate it. And it's like, that's the pathway. And it's a rude awakening, entrepreneurship is, but it's fun if you like that kind of stuff. And I don't think it's for everybody, but if you are like to have open mind and like to co-create and like to learn and like to grow, then it's definitely for you.
Yeah, it's for the listeners of this podcast,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, definitely is like if you like to become a better person and you want to make aligned money, like heck yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it always comes back to with when I ask people this question of like what New Earth business means to them. It's that foundational root of relationships first, before profit, before
Mhm.
like whatever status that you want to have in the world. It's like, what is the quality of your root system that is going to allow you to grow into this
Mhm.
stable, healthy, cash flowing business? And having that devotional fire engine at the heart of what you're doing, because it is the soul calling of the mission that has been placed on your heart in this life to deliver through the vehicle of your business that ripples out into this movement that evolves
Mhm.
the collective consciousness. And that's what we're doing here.
Yeah. It's so good. And it honestly took me a while to get to that point. I mean, it takes everybody's timeline is different. And so just rolling with your natural evolution is the funnest thing possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of pruning to happen with
Mhm.
all of the conditioning from family, society, culture of what it means to be successful, what it means to make money, what it means to be in relationship and to be invested in these networks. Because
Mhm.
on the outside, like if we're gonna do red pill, blue pill, the
Yeah.
mainstream kind of narrative around these spaces that it's a scam or it's a cult.
Yeah.
And there's like a barrier to get into them and realize like the actual scam and cult is the mainstream culture.
Yeah, about that part. That's where you're like, dang, I love the word pyramid scheme. I'm like, do you have a corporate job? I think you might be in a pyramid scheme. I'm sorry. I hate to awaken you to this.
Yes,
It's
the
crazy.
ultimate.
I'm like, that's business. I think life is like that. And they're just buzzwords, to like get scared, which is crazy. That's even more programming. Like, I have, when I get those buzzwords, I'm like, can you share one with me? Because I've actually never seen one that's like, like a real pyramid scheme or whatever, or like things. I'm like, share these with me because I'm like, is this just a fear? Or is this like rooted in something real?
Mhm.
And then what's like
There are
behind
some
what's
like Ponzi scheme type style businesses.
yeah.
So people are like funneling money from people that like there is actually no product, or that one
Mhm.
person is like pocketing all of the cash and not delivering on the sales deliverables and blah 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 whatever things. But
Yeah.
it's like that's not what mentorship and
Mhm.
these investments in regenerative systems is at all. And I think that like as
Mhm.
we're navigating these different spaces and the different ecosystems that exist within the collective, we get to also refine our discernment of, okay, what is
Mhm.
this for me? And how am I going to choose to engage with this and refine that felt sense of resonance so that
Mhm.
I can actually be aligned with that dharmic path of that calling that is on my heart, beyond what is programmed in type of like fear or scarcity, um, through whatever
Yeah.
input that has come of it. And
Mhm.
I feel like there's another thread there, but do you have anything you want to add to that?
It's all relationship, right? It's like, is
Mhm.
this for me? Okay, well, like, what's my, relationship to it? What's my relationship with the person that I'm connecting to it? Like for me with the water, my relationship to it has been through like some of the most solid people in the world. I have, some solid friends that I've made in person, but like amazing relationships online that have been curated for the past year and a half. And when you really start to get into rooms and relationships where people are like holding you to the highest power, they're reflecting things back to you kindly, and they're like seeing you for you, it's almost easier for us to get vulnerable online or within community spaces behind a screen, which inevitably like brings us closer. And so it's like, yes, technology is like crazy, but I'm seeing it like unite people like no other. And so it's really the relationships that we form and like how like deeply rooted those are with who we are and where we want to be. And that's been my number one thing is like, I trust Annie with my life. I trust like all of these beautiful humans that I get to reflect back off of in the Living Brave community. It's absolutely wild. So when we get to lean into the online space and community and mentorships and get to know people, it's so much fun. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's so fun to send voice memos to each other and like
Oh, it's the best.
be vulnerable and share. And then we get to like meet each other in person like every so often, maybe like once a year, a couple times a year at an event. We do something, maybe we're neighbors. It's like
Maybe we
this
build
is
retreats together.
yeah, this is the dream life. This is the dream relationship. And that's kind of how I am as a woman too. And an entrepreneur. It's like we're entrepreneurs. We got a lot going on. We need to be able to ebb and flow, come in and out, connect when we need to connect, disconnect when we need to disconnect, look for support when we need it, be there for support when we're ready to give it, things like that. So it's really, really mentorship is the way and community is the way always. And that's what Well-Rooted Rising is all about. It's just like to root down and rise together.
Yeah, I always like to think of technology as the reflection of our innate spiritual technology, that
Yeah.
connected web of all things,
Mhm.
and that it's not a replacement for the in-person events and gatherings. It's just an enhancement of it that gets to exceed time and space. And when we do get to meet each other in person, then there is that bond that's already been formed, of that trust, of that vulnerability. So it's like we get to pick up from this place that is so much more open and receptive, and it just like catapults us up the slipstream, as a lot of people like
Mhm.
to say. Um, uh, yeah, is I feel like we're coming to a natural closing point.
Mhm.
And I want to give you the space to speak about any offers that you have on, any upcoming events, what's going on in your world, how people can get connected with you.
To offer things is a new journey for me. It is. I'm so excited for it. So I'm getting ready, I believe, is it November? I'm gonna run a challenge called Ask. Don't ask me too many details about it yet, but we're gonna be pushing ourselves to ask. We're gonna lean into where we are being fueled and where we're being drained and ask for more of that, maybe ask for help with that, and really lean into community here. That's what I got with it so far. I'm probably gonna do like a nice class with like immersions and prompts after that. And so the offers thing is new for me, and I'm really, really excited to dive in the multi different facets of where I can serve people. Um, you can find me on Instagram at Mystic Water Mama. You can find me on Facebook. I'm Taurin McBride. And yeah, I do right now. I'm doing regenerative consulting. I'm doing water calls, helping people with their water. And I'm excited to start curating some classes and offers that can serve people more on like an emotional, mental, physical level without like, needing to buy a product or do things, but actual just real life in person transformation with applications and community ties. And I'm always feel like I'm always feeling inclined to promote our mentorship spaces. I mean, Living Brave with Shoshana Raven, the Mirrorship with Annie Davis, like the Miracle Oracle with Audrey, like so many amazing women like connected with Chanice, whoever, like we are here to help people and hold each other. And so yeah, that's what I gotta say.
I love your heart. you. I'm so excited to see where this path takes you and to watch your evolution and unfolding and the juicy offers that you have coming up. We'll have all of your links in the show notes so people can connect with you if anything spark their interest, they want to get their water right. And
Get the mind right.
mind right,
We're
body
doing
right.
it all.
Yes.
Yes. The regenerative systems from inside out. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was so much fun to conversate with you. And yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Yes.